Yo, I just wanted to talk about this because we didn't start the recording correctly. The Kings are allegedly open to talking to De'Aaron Fox ahead of the February 6th trade deadline. I do believe it's just posturing and that he's more likely to be traded in free agency when draft capital and contracts are easier to trade. Before the season, Fox turned down a 3-year, $165 million extension with the Kings. He said that he loves Sacramento but wants to win. In December, Rich Paul, his agent, met with the Kings front office and they talked about Fox's future. They fired Mike Brown and Doug Christie was elevated to interim head coach. They're currently in the 10th seed and allegedly the San Antonio Spurs are his preferred destination. Now, he's averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 37 minutes a night in 43 games. In 2023, he was an All-Star and an All-NBA team member. Now, one of my buddies who's a media member in LA was talking with a buddy who told him that allegedly Mr. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that is good friends, or his wife is good friends with Harrison Barnes' wife. And that's been since Barnes' time with Sacramento. And since the summertime, De'Aaron Fox has been eyeing real estate in Texas, specifically in San Antonio. And yes, he does like both the Clippers and Lakers, but he understands that the cap situation makes those moves too tough. However, Rich Paul is trying to see if he can make something happen. Bradley Beal is allegedly open to waiving his no-trade clause for Sacramento. While I like Fox, I understand if the Sacramento Kings believe that they aren't a contender with him taking up 30% of the salary cap. It's not that he doesn't lift his teammates up, but I just think he can't. When you have that hefty of a paycheck, it would financially restrict them, just like what happened to the Washington Wizards with Bradley Beal, John Wall, and Otto Porter Jr. And we see that the Kings are gearing up trade discussions for De'Aaron Fox ahead of next week's trade deadline. Yes, he's attracting interest from multiple teams. Fox wants to go, it seems, either Texas or somewhere else. And if he doesn't go where he desires, he plans on hitting free agency in 2026. James Ham, a Kings beat reporter, mentioned this even before Shams Charania. Fox is open to extending his contract only with the Kings or Spurs. Other teams would have to play the waiting game, meaning he'd go test free agency. After rejecting a max extension last season, he could sign a 4-year, $229 million deal, or if he gets an All-NBA team appearance, that'd go to a 5-year, $345 million deal. Now, we said that the Lakers and Clippers aren't his preferred destination, and frankly, if they wanted to trade for him, they probably don't have the assets to secure him if they wanted to. Personally, I think that if you look at this, De'Aaron Fox is a solid all-around point guard, top 5 player at his position. I think a dark horse team is Miami. Imagine Bradley Beal, who's earning $50.2 million, goes to Sacramento. In return, Miami would acquire De'Aaron Fox, who makes $34.8 million, Trey Lyles on an expiring $8 million deal, and Colby Jones, who comes in via trade exception and still has 2 years remaining on his deal, with 2.1 being this year's salary. They'd also probably get 1 or 2 of the first round picks from the Suns, as Jimmy Butler would go to Phoenix, and they would salary dump Josh Richardson, who's been out for all but 8 games due to a heel injury, and he's on a veteran minimum contract that doesn't impact the cap, and they probably just would waive him and sign somebody else. So I think this would provide a little bit of everything for all teams involved. I mean, by the way, Colby Jones is averaging 19, 6, and 4 in the G while shooting like 46 and I think like 35 from 3. So to me, we know that the San Antonio Spurs are the preferred destination for De'Aaron Fox, as the other teams, the Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic, and the Clippers, are all reportedly having interest in him. I think this is just more of a posturing situation if I had to choose and say so. Waiving the no trade clause and going to Sacramento. So if Bradley Beal's open to going to Sacramento, Bradley Beal $50.2 million, De'Aaron Fox making $34 million, with Trey Lyles and Colby Jones. Trey Lyles isn't expiring on $8 million. Colby Jones is a second-year player who kind of in the same vein of a Josh Hart coming out of college, who in the G League right now is someone who's averaged 19, 6, and 4 between the two seasons on 46 and 35, 46 field, 35 3-point. So a young guy for the Heat, and maybe one or two of the first round picks that the Suns got from the Jazz. And then the Suns obviously get themselves Jimmy Butler and Josh Richardson, who's on a veteran minimum contract, which means that it doesn't count against the salary cap. And he has this heel injury that has kept him out for all but 8 games. So they would just buy him out or just waive him and open up a roster spot. So I think that's one that could actually work out. It's pretty easy to do. You could also, by the way, if you didn't want to trade the Trey Lyles, Colby Jones combination, you could just do Kevin Huerter and have, I believe the Heat would have to trade both Alec Burks and Josh Richardson, because then that's like $53 million, and De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter's about 51. So that you can also do it with Kevin Huerter if you rather. You assume they want Trey Lyles if they were going to do a deal like that, due to the fact that this is a team that wants cap flexibility. So that's one. I really do think that the Spurs, who are the best team in terms of positioning themselves to get a player of De'Aaron Fox's caliber, as yes, Doug Christie's done a good job of righting the ship. I think the roster's flawed to begin with. And De'Aaron Fox is someone who the earliest he'll be a free agent is in 2026. He's averaged 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and he's made an All-NBA and an All-Star team before this year, both in 2023. Now, I believe looking at the situation, it's just a bit more than people are thinking. I don't think they're pressed to make the deal right now. They're probably putting him out there because he's peak value. So if he's peak value, they probably can get more on their dollar than they would if they waited later. So to me, I think the biggest thing is that if they can go ahead and get themselves a guy like De'Aaron Fox in the Heat, with the Heat in exchange for Jimmy Butler instead of Bradley Beal, I'd rather have De'Aaron Fox than Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal. So I think De'Aaron Fox is the one player that fits the mold of what the Heat would want in terms of a player that is on long-term money that they would want. Now, like I mentioned a few seconds ago, the Spurs have the draft picks, the assets to go ahead and get themselves De'Aaron Fox if they really wanted to. And if this were to be done, Bradley Beal, like I said, would have to be truly willing to waive his no trade clause like it's alleged that he is. Now, that's kind of everything we have on the De'Aaron Fox situation. I do think it's an interesting one when you look at it from the inside looking in. I think they would like to trade him now if they want to pull the rip plug on the season and tank. But I think it's more they're going to probably trade him in the offseason.